The movie begins with a college girl sitting in a lecture when she suddenly receives a message asking how she plans to get home. She replies that she is planning to take the bus, but the person texting her sends another message asking why she doesn't check the ride board for rides after the lecture. She goes over to the ride board and finds a note saying that someone is offering a ride to do her on December 23rd. Because of that, she decides not to take the bus after all. She heads to the parking lot, where she finds a young man asleep inside his car. However, she gets really annoyed when she realizes that he parked his car far away from the entrance. The trunk is packed completely full, leaving almost no room for her bags, but she somehow manages to squeeze them inside. The girl tries to get into the car, but the young man tells her that the doors sometimes get stuck. He eventually manages to open it for her, and they set off. During the trip, the girl talks to her friend on the phone while the young man driving seems annoyed. She tells her friend that she's bored and that they still have 5 hours left before they reach their destination. She then takes a picture of him and asks why he looks so grumpy. He tells her that there's an unwritten rule on long road trips. The passenger sitting next to the driver is supposed to keep him company and make the atmosphere more enjoyable. But she isn't really in the mood to talk, so she asks him what school he used to attend. He tells her that he went to an all-boys Catholic school, but now he attends the same college as her. She says she doesn't remember him at all because there were so many people in their class. He then explains what year he was there, and they continue talking. He asks her why she chose to major in philosophy, and she explains that the program seemed easier to get into, even though she had always wanted to become an engineer. The young man starts telling her a boring story about philosophy, so she decides to end the conversation, turns on some music, and they continue driving. While painting her nails, she tells him that she needs to use the bathroom. He reassures her and tells her not to worry because there's a gas station nearby where they can stop. Then he brings up another strange topic, asking how eye surgeries are performed. She tells him that they're done with lasers. He asks her how her eyesight is, and she explains that she's planning to get the procedure done during the summer. He tells her that she looks good in glasses, which makes her suspicious because she wonders how he knows she wears glasses in the first place. She only wears them inside her room at the dorm. After that, things become completely quiet between them. Eventually, he changes the subject. They arrive at the gas station and pull over. He reminds her that she said she needed to use the bathroom, but she tells him she can't get out of the car because she just painted her nails and they're still wet. The young man offers to help her get out, and they walk into the gas station store. The girl asks the employee if there's a bathroom, and the man points her toward it. She goes inside and uses the bathroom, but afterward, she can't get the door open. She starts calling out for help, but no one comes. Finally, she hears the young man's voice and tells him that she's trapped inside. After several attempts, she finally manages to open the door. She then asks the young man why he didn't come to help her when she called him. He tells her that he didn't hear her. The employee at the store reminds the young man that he needs to get back on the highway, so the young man reassures the girl and tells her that he's driven this road 1,000,000 times before. They leave the gas station. The girl offers to split the cost of the gas with him, but he refuses. They continue driving until they see a sign pointing toward the highway. Suddenly, the young man turns the car sharply and drives off the main road. The girl asks him why he left the road and whether he's joking with her. At the same time, she starts getting scared and tells him to turn back onto the main road. But he reassures her, saying it's just a shortcut and that it's a beautiful road. They pass several crosses standing in the snow, but they continue driving deeper and deeper into the forest. He turns on a Christmas song and starts talking about his holiday traditions. He tells her how he used to celebrate Christmas with his mother and father. The girl tells him that she actually celebrates Christmas twice, once with her father and once with her mother, because her parents divorced when she was still a freshman in college. As they continue talking, the young man starts to think that she's a little strange, and the two begin arguing. Suddenly, another car appears, traveling in the same direction. Its headlights are extremely bright, and the two cars nearly crash head-on. At the last second, the young man swerves and drives off the road again. The impact appears to have been severe, and both of them lose consciousness. After some time, the girl regains consciousness. She carefully pulls a knife out of her bag and gets out of the car. She tries to call her friend, but suddenly the young man appears behind her and scares her. He asks what she's doing, and she tells him that she's trying to get help. She also tells him that there is absolutely no cell service. She asks him for his phone, but he says he doesn't have one. She looks worried and asks if he's okay. He tells her he's fine, although he took a pretty hard hit to the head. She asks about the other car, the one they were supposed to find or the one that supposedly hit them. The girl assumes they must have driven away, but the young man notices that there are no tire tracks on the road at all. He tries calling out for help, but no one can hear them. He then says they need to get back to the car quickly and try to get out of the area. He looks around and discovers several gravestones nearby. The girl gets into the driver's seat while the young man tries to push the car, but it is stuck in a pile of snow, and they can't get it out. The girl locks the doors and starts blaming him. She tells him that everything happening is his fault, and that he doesn't even live anywhere near her. She says he's acting like a crazy person. The two begin arguing, but he insists that none of this is his fault, and that he's not crazy. He tells her that he's going back to the gas station to get help and assures her that everything will be fine. He asks her to come with him, but she's extremely frightened of him and decides to stay inside the car. The young man then walks away and decides to take a shortcut through the middle of the forest. At that moment, the girl finds some duct tape inside the car and starts covering the windows while trying to seal them shut. Suddenly, she spots a man walking through the snow. Determined to ask him for help, she gets out of the car, but he ignores her and keeps walking until he disappears into the forest. She starts to panic and tries to calm herself down. Just then, the young man returns and tells her to calm down. She tells him that she saw a man on the road, but he says they need to get back to the car quickly because it turns out the gas station is closed. She becomes suspicious and asks him what's going on, since the gas station is supposed to be open 24 hours a day. He tells her he doesn't know what's happening. She says she's not getting back in the car with him and calls him crazy. She no longer trusts him and doesn't want to go back with him, but she has no other choice, and time is running out. She looks at the clock inside the car and tells him that it has stopped working. He tells her that it's broken. At that moment, she notices something strange, points at him, and tells him that he's bleeding. He completely ignores it and insists that he's fine. Then she asks him, "Who are you really?" He tells her that he's just an ordinary college student. He then admits that he lives very far away and that he only wanted to give a ride to a pretty girl. He explains that he found out where she lived from her friends and knew where she usually went and what she normally did. She asks him how he knew she would need a ride. We then see a flashback showing that during the lecture, he noticed the message that appeared on her phone and realized it was his chance to talk to her. After discovering the truth, the girl calms down a little. The young man suggests that they eat something, but she remembers that she left her food bag in the parking lot. Suddenly, the young man remembers that he left a piece of chocolate under the seat. While searching for it, he starts screaming hysterically, which worries the girl. But he eventually reveals that he was only joking. The two continue arguing and trading insults. Suddenly, without any warning, the car engine starts making a strange noise and then completely dies. The girl grabs a flashlight and gets out to check underneath the car. She discovers that all the fuel has leaked onto the ground. At the same time, the temperature begins dropping incredibly fast. The young man takes the girl's bag and tries to offer her some clothes to keep her warm, but of course, there isn't anything in her bag that can properly protect them from the freezing cold. The girl tells him that she never expected them to get stuck in a pile of snow, and the two begin freezing from the cold. The young man tells her that body heat could help keep them warm, suggesting that they get closer to each other, but she strongly rejects the idea. After a while, she tells him that she needs to use the bathroom. She gets out of the car and walks behind it. When she finishes, she is terrified to find 3 priests walking nearby. One of them looks at her but continues walking without stopping. The girl runs back to the car and quickly tells the young man what she saw. They decide to follow the priests and start running after them, shouting for help. Eventually, the priests stop. The girl is terrified and suggests that they return to the car because these people clearly saw her but didn't stop to help. The girl returns to the car, but the young man continues running after the priests. After a while, he starts coughing violently and notices blood. He keeps walking for a little longer until he finds an old, abandoned house. He enters and finds an old newspaper lying on the floor. He picks up the newspaper and takes a few steps deeper into the house. There, he sees a group of frozen corpses inside and is completely horrified. He runs back outside, but when he looks behind him, all the bodies have disappeared. Meanwhile, the girl sees a man on the road. She gets out of the car and asks him for help. The man is begging a police officer not to throw him into the water. The girl desperately runs after him and notices that there is a wire wrapped around the man's legs. She asks him who did this to him. But he keeps mumbling something she can't understand. When she gets closer and tries to touch him, she touches his face. At that moment, he turns toward her, and a snake suddenly emerges from his mouth. The girl is completely shocked and backs away, but she bumps into 2 other men who appear to have been beaten and are covered in blood. The young man runs back to her and finds her lying on the ground. He asks her what happened. She tells him that there was a man there, and that something strange was on his face. The young man takes her back to the car, and they begin covering the windows with the newspapers they found. Eventually, they hug each other to keep warm. At that point, the young man feels much more confident. Several hours later, someone knocks on the car window. It turns out to be a police officer, who asks them what they're doing out there. The girl tells him that another car swerved toward them and forced them off the road. The officer assumes they're just two people in a romantic relationship who stopped together in the car. He tells them that he'll make them leave the area, write them a ticket, and let them go. But the girl begins to suspect that the whole thing is a scam and that the officer and the other driver are trying to blackmail them and take their money. She tries to offer the officer a bribe, but he isn't interested in the money. He tells her that this stretch of road is extremely dangerous and that many young people get into accidents there when they're alone. He then invites her to get into the police car with him. The tension between them begins to rise. Then, strangely, the officer suddenly yells at her and tells her that she's not going anywhere. At that moment, the girl sees another man standing on top of a hill while the officer orders her to get into the car. She starts begging him to leave them alone, but the officer continues moving toward them. Suddenly, the young man hits the police officer with a piece of metal they had found, and in the next moment, they find themselves back inside the car. The young man's hands are stuck to the metal object he used to hit the officer with, so the girl tells him to warm his hands. She then asks him what happened. He tells her that they were outside, and suddenly they found themselves back inside the car, while the officer had disappeared as if he were a ghost. As he tries to warm his hands, the two start thinking about eating something tasty. The girl asks the young man what was inside the shopping bag he bought from the gas station store. She is curious to know what kind of food was in it, then says that she wants to have her last meal before she dies. She starts getting emotional and crying, but the young man reassures her and tells her that morning will come soon and that someone will eventually drive by and find them. The girl tells him that she has some pills in her bag. She searches for them, and the young man takes several of them. Then, while she is taping the newspaper over the car window, she notices some familiar faces in one of the pictures printed in the newspaper. The picture shows an accident that happened on the same road in 1963. A man and his wife were killed in the crash. There was also a police officer in the other car, and he died as well. A group of priests were the first people to arrive at the scene, but they were unable to save the couple. The girl then suggests that they take turns keeping watch, with one of them staying awake while the other sleeps. She says she'll go first and tells him to get some sleep. After a while, the newspaper covering the window suddenly falls off by itself. The radio turns on by itself, and the officer suddenly appears and smashes the car window. In a flashback, we see how this officer used to cause numerous accidents on this road and abduct young women. The young man wakes up and finds the girl having trouble breathing, so he tries to wake her. Then the radio starts playing the same music again, and a police car appears on the road. Cold air begins blowing into the car through the air conditioning vents. The young man tries to block the vents with his body to protect the girl. About an hour later, the two are still inside the car when they begin hearing strange noises. A little later, the car itself starts shaking violently, making them even more frightened and anxious. The noise eventually stops, and the young man tells her that they need to stay there until morning and that they're safe inside the car. 4 hours later, the young man looks extremely exhausted and is in very bad shape. He tries with all his strength to talk to her and keep her spirits up. The girl wants to look for more pills for him, but instead, she discovers a bottle containing urine mixed with blood. She asks him if he was seriously injured in the accident. He tells her that he's been coughing up blood for a while and that he suffered internal injuries in the crash, meaning he's bleeding internally. The girl wants to go to the gas station to get help, but he warns her that it's extremely dangerous. She then moves closer to him with a new plan in mind. She wants to reach a phone that is in the car with him and use the radio's transmission tower to contact the police before leaving him behind. The young man tells her he wouldn't be angry if life after death kept repeating itself, but if he got another chance, there would be one thing he'd change. He would go up to her after the lecture and simply say, "Hey, how are you?" She tells him that would have been better. The girl kisses him and leaves. She quickly climbs the tower, reaches the phone, and manages to contact emergency services and send a message. However, the signal is so weak that she isn't sure whether the message actually went through. As soon as she climbs down from the tower, she sees a terrifying-looking woman standing barefoot in the middle of the snow. She is horrified and runs back to the car. When she gets back, she discovers that the young man who accompanied her on the trip has already died. As she tries to pull his body out of the car, she sees another vehicle approaching. She panics, thinking the crazy officer has returned, but this time, it is the rescue vehicle that has finally arrived. While riding in the rescue vehicle, the paramedic begins telling her the story of the place. He explains that many horrific accidents have happened there throughout the years. There was once a corrupt police officer who would stop young people on that road and kill them. But one day, he got into an accident, and both he and his car burned. After that accident, people began dying in the area. They even found an entire family dead and frozen. The girl asks what happened to the priests, and he tells her that they found all of them frozen in their beds. Suddenly, another car appears in front of them on the road, and the radio begins playing the same old music. The girl immediately realizes that it is the crazy officer's car. The man and the girl survive the accident once again, but the man wants to get out and check whether the other driver is still alive. The girl gets out of the vehicle and realizes that they've returned to the exact same place where they were when the accident first happened. She tries to stop the man and warn him about the danger, but he continues walking toward the crashed car belonging to the ghost officer. The girl tells him they don't need to help him because he's already dead, but the other officer who is with the rescue team insists that they have to help him too. The priest then approach the officer, remove the radio from his car, and walk away, leaving the officer begging them for help. He tells them, "Don't judge a poor, sinful soul," while his car begins to catch fire. But the officer's spirit emerges from the burning car and grabs the other rescue officer. In an instant, the rescue officer turns into a block of ice. The girl runs to the rescue vehicle and tries to start it, but the ghost officer catches up with her and tries to grab her. Suddenly, the young man who died appears from the forest and saves her. The girl then wakes up inside the vehicle with the dead young man's body beside her. Morning arrives, and she sees the young man's ghost standing outside the car. He apologizes for leaving without saying goodbye. She understands and apologizes for leaving him alone in the car. The young man tells her that everything will be okay. Then, as a ghost, he leads her toward the forest. The girl walks through the snow-covered forest until she finally reaches the gas station. Meanwhile, doctors and rescue workers arrive, and the girl receives first aid. As she watches the body of the young man who saved her being carried away, she takes out her phone and looks at a picture of him. In the end, it turns out that she is the only survivor of the entire incident. And that's where the movie ends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget that your opinion matters to us. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.